YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today, guys, we will talk about the Runick Chimera deck. Now, a lot of people already asked me to make a video out of this, so here we have it. Now, the deck is kinda good if it is not a Snake Eyes format, which means hand trap is also a problem with this deck, like any other deck as well. Now, fascinating as it is, although the branded part here isn't gonna be shown that much, but it is a really good engine as well for this deck to go into your Chimera afterwards. Now, I did some testing with this deck. Now, this wasn't my final version for the deck. I had a previous version where I ran 40 cards. The majority of the time, what your main goal here is to summon your Chimeras, since Chimeras gives out a ton of interruptions and of course protection for your own cards. Now, the thing about this deck is I tried a previous version where there were no hand traps, just a copy of Triple Tactics, no Super Poly. The deck was just so frail. Going second, you can't do anything about it. The one copy of Triple Tactics talent doesn't do much, even if you have a ton of supports from your Runick cards. And of course, with your Runick cards, since it is semi-limited and some are basically limited, you can't do anything about it. So might as well gonna go for additional board breakers as well, like Super Poly, your Triple Tactics talent, and that's basically it. Your Chimera Fusion is also lessened into 2 copies, of course, and your Big Wing Baphomet. I've seen some other people go into 3 copies of Baphomet here, but typically this is a UR card, so it's really hard to like craft this, and I don't want to craft another one, of course, because this is basically just Runicks with Chimeras. If you want, or if you have a 3rd copy of Baphomet, just remove a copy of Triple Tactics Talent. Or if you would like to settle with just 40 cards with just 2 copies of Baphomet, just remove the Triple Tactics Talent and the 3rd copy of Super Poly. This, however, is really consistent enough in gaining more of your Runick cards or even your Chimera cards. But regardless, I do prefer just going with this one here because going first or going second, it still helps a lot. Your extra deck is kind of tight. We did not run Sleipnir here because of our Super Poly targets. So that's one downside for this deck as well. If you want to remove the Super Poly here, it's really up to you. But for me, I had a ton of like good games with the help of Super Poly. But yeah, if you want to remove Super Poly here, just add additional cards for your main deck. For your extra deck, which is the targets here like this, and a copy of Gigostabilia, 3 cards. You can go with Sleipnir for your Runick cards. You can also go for Munin if you want. There is 2 other Fiend monsters like the Baguska or even the copy of Muckraker that are also Fiend, as long as you have a Beast monster on the field or on hand, plus a copy of your Chimera Fusion. It's easy enough to summon your what you call this, the Chimera King of Phantom Beasts, to the field. You can also run 3 copies of Chimera Fusion if you want to remove the Super Poly, of course. Regardless, the deck was fun, and I'm not really like a Runick type of guy, but I really love the game on how Runicks and Chimeras like synergize, of course. During a turn, the Super Poly was just an additional card that I was really thinking of adding because you always draw cards with the help of the Chimeras, especially with the Baphomet on the field, special summoning or normal summoning, getting a hold of its materials. The Chimera Fusion into a copy of Gorgon Chimera always gives you a +1 or a +2, so that's insanely good. And also, lastly, the Fountain will also give you a number of additional cards with the help of, or if you activate its effect, to spin back and draw additional cards. So basically, that is the deck profile for you guys. Yeah, I have a few replays that I would like to showcase to you guys, of course. Hopefully you enjoy this kind of replays, and that's basically it for the main deck. Let's go towards the replays. Alright guys, so here we are with game number 1, and we're going up against Exosisters here. So another downside for this deck, if you are going up against Kashtiras or Exosisters or any deck that banish your cards, it doesn't really help you a lot. So yeah, typically we have an Ash Blossom, we have a Fallen Valbaz, 1 Triple Tactics, 1 Smiting Storm, and a copy of Dispelling. So at this point, we need to go into a copy of our Hugin here to get a copy of the Field Skull. But our guy already has the Shifter on hand, so it was really sucky. But we'll try to get, of course, the Fountain on the field if ever we can. So we go for a copy of Yugen here, dumping a copy of our Fallen Valvas since we don't have, Brand Fusion. Our guy is gonna have Ash Blossom, of course, of all hand traps. So yeah, another downside for the deck is hand traps, of course, which in the current meta or the current format is really sucky. Anyway, so we just go into Triple Tactics Silent, draw 2 cards, and luckily we got a good card for our next turn if we can survive. Setting a copy of Runick Storm in case we will get killed off or try to do a finishing blow. But our guy is gonna go for attacking my monsters with just a measly attack, and then going for Caspital later on to search out a card, which I was really hoping that he would go for an Exi and then go for Zeus. But yeah, good for us. So our guy's gonna go for Caspital, search out the card, we will Ash Blossom it, and then set 2 cards. Now at this point, I just wanted to summon a monster first before I summon the Sword Knight to the field. So that way, if ever that is something that can negate a Sword Knight, then we're still good. Or negate the Baphomet, we're still good. So you get into the field again, dumping a copy of our Kodal. Our guy's gonna go for Imperm here. And at this point on, I am good. No, I was really afraid, that this card would be another Imperm, but it was not. So we go for a copy of Big Wing Baphomet, gaining the additional materials, and then it was just actually a Darumacan, which is not really a really big card to go up against us. So with this, we go for Chimera, the Phantom Beast, and then we Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, and then that's basically it. A ton of advantage just because of those cards, and of course the Chimera Fusion can be bounced back from the graveyard to our hand for a follow-up next turn. Anyways, that is game number 1. Let's go for game number 2. Alright, for game number 2, guys, we have Fallen Valvas, 1 copy of Mirror Sword Knight, 2 Called by the Graves, which is really good, and a copy of Smiting Storm. Typically, we don't really need like a Runick card on hand. We just need the Fountain on the field because we'll just get the additional cards during our opponent's turn and use the Runick cards after that one. So typically, yeah, what we need to do here is just basically summon our Chimeras to the field, and then with 1 Runick card, we can just get a hold of 1 Fountain. That's the only thing that we need. So at this point, we go for Baphomet as our Chainlink 3, get the hold of the cards, Baphomet spell summoning the Mirror Sword into the field, and getting the Kodal from the Gazelle, and then using the Phantom Beast on the end turn. With Chimera Fusion, we can spin that back to our bounce that back to our hand. We go for Smiting Storm, spell summon the Yugen to the field, dumping 1 card to get a copy of the Fountain, which we are able to. So at this point, you might say, oh, you don't have a Runick card. Well, typically we can just search that one out with a copy of Guardian Chimera. So during our end phase, we dump a copy of Bone Archfiend, so our guys using here Labrynth and Resonators. Yes, there is a mix with that type of deck. So our guys gonna spell summon the Bone Archfiend from the graveyard to the field. We can just negate it. Oh no, we can just interrupt it with a copy of our Sword Knight, spell summoning our Baphomet, and gaining access to 2 cards. The reason for this also, or that Super Poly is really good, is because of these effects right here. That gains us more additional cards from our deck to our hand. So our guys gonna go for Vision Resonator. We will call by the grave that 1 card. And then our guy is just going to go for Crimson Gaia, which you can just go into the Chimera Fusion, allowing us to draw 2 more cards and then pop 1 card on the field. And like I said, if you have a Super Poly or you try to excavate your Runick cards, this is it. So there you go, Guardian Chimera, and then chain block it with Gazelle or Chainlink 2. Then there we go. Cornfield Kodal to our field for a follow-up next turn. And then we got a copy of Triple Tactics plus a copy of Freezing Curses, which is really good though. So at this point, our guy is going to go for Soul Resonator. We still have an effect of Sword Knight in the graveyard, which we can negate. And he will go into a copy of Red Rising here. Use the effect, target 1 from the graveyard. We will use the effect of Freezing Curses, negate the effect, and then we will use the effect of Fountain to spin back how many Runick cards? 2 Runick cards from our graveyard, and then draw 2. So it refreshes our hand, and of course, majority of the cards that we already brought out with the help of the Chimeras are all in the graveyard or on the field or on our hand. So majority of the cards that are in the deck now are just basically Runics, so we just have to cycle them back from graveyard to deck and deck to hand. So that's really good. That's basically our game here. So since we haven't used any Runick cards at this point on, we are just basically popping some cards. Oh wait, we used a while ago, so we can't do a battle phase, but our guy just, you know, conceded here. So he's gonna go for rivalry. I just chose beast, and then we can just pop the back row and then do for an attack on the next turn, because we can attack during this turn. So this is game number 2. Let's go for game number 3. Alright guys, so game number 3, we have here Ash Blossom, a copy of Gazelle, one Sword Knight, a copy of Super Poly, and a copy of Chimera Fusion, which is really nice. So we don't have like any Runick cards whatsoever. Hopefully we can draw into one copy of it with the help of Guardian Chimera during the turn. So with this, we do our normal Chimera stuff. Go Fusion Summon into Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts to the field, Chainlink 1 Chimera, Chainlink 2 Gazelle, and then Chainlink 3 the Baphomet. So Baphomet will summons the Sword Knight from our graveyard to the field for a follow-up on his turn, and then a lingering effect for the Flying Beast. And with that, bounce back a copy of Chimera Fusion, set our Super Poly, and we are good. The Rip 1 card, which is the Fire Recovery, a really good card as well. But yeah, he's gonna go for Bonfire here. Luckily, we have a copy of Ash Blossom, and one of the reasons why Ash Blossom is more important than dumping a copy of Maxi is because of that. So we go for a copy of Sword Knight, spell summoning the Baphomet to the field, allowing it to gain access to one more Gazelle and a copy of Chimera Fusion. And the reason why I just ran 2 copies because you can just spin back Chimera Fusion from our graveyard, which is kind of okay. Our guy's gonna go for Trooper in the field. He'll use the effect. We will negate it with a copy of Sword Knight. You're still gonna use the effect though. Special summoning a token, and with that we go for Super Poly. Special summoning Garura to the field. And then for our last, thing that he'll do, I'm gonna target one monster, and then I'll use the effect of Kodal to negate and pop. And with that, we have a clear board. So during our turn, we are free to do an OTK. So there we go. Go for Guardian Chimera, which is 3,300. Then use just the effect of Gazelle and a copy of Baphomet from the graveyard, special summoning the Mirror Sword Knight from our graveyard. So this is more than lethal, and that is basically the game. There we go. 3K and then 3,300. So that is game number 3, guys. Let's go for our last game. Alright, so for our last game, guys, typically this deck really works well if you're going first and then uninterrupted. But yeah, we're going up against a Go Second Adventure deck. It's kind of weird. I don't know what type of deck this is using actually. We have 1 Cornfield Coddle, 1 Runick Flashing Fire, 1 Slumber, 2 copies of Chimera Fusion. So not really the best of hand here, but at least we got a copy of Coddle here. So we start off with a copy of Slumber here, searching out a copy of our Fountain. We got Max Seed, so we don't have anything else to do but continue on with our combo. So we go for Yugen to the field, dumping 1 card of Fusion, and then gaining access to our Fountain, but we got Ashed. So sad to say, we can't do anything about it, but just move towards our Chimera combo. So Kodal will be dumped to the graveyard, gaining access to the Sword Knight. With the Sword Knight, we can summon to the field, tribute it to spell summon the Baphomet. Baphomet will search out a copy of Gazelle, plus the Chimera Fusion, since we already have the second copy in the graveyard, so we can't search out another one. So with this, we go for Chimera King of Phantom Beast, Chainlink 1, Chainlink 2, Chainlink 3, and that's basically our board right there. So not really like the best, and our guy is gonna have like 7 cards here, but we rip 1 because of the Chimera, so it's still good, I would say. And we have an extra Kodal for the next turn. And Flashing Fire for popping 1 card, or popping 1 monster card. Plus, of course, Chimera Fusion into Guardian Chimera. So, out of all the cards that we dump, it's Water Enchantress. So our guy's gonna go for Lightning Storm, popping the back row, but we got Yugen on the field to negate it. Our guy's gonna go for the Black Witch, using the effect. We'll use the effect of Mirror Knight here to negate the effect. And then not negate the effects. Use the effect to spell summon the Baphomet, and then use the Sword Knight effect in the graveyard later on. My god, I kind of forget. But our guy is gonna go for Sinful Spoil, Subversion, target one monster. I will go for Coddle here to negate the effect. And we're still standing tall with the copy of Phantom Beast on the field. Our guy is gonna spell summon one monster in the field. Luckily, we have Flashing Fire to pop the token. And then he's gonna go for Jesser Confet. I think this one is one of the most annoying cards as well that keeps on special summoning to the field. But there we go. He's gonna go for Dark Charmer, spell summoning one buff to the field. I'm gonna use the effect of Sword Knight here, just to negate it. And then he has another copy of Confet on hand. So spell summon it once more. Go for a copy of Selena. I have no choice but to use the Chimera Fusion here to summon Guardian Chimera. So with that, Guardian Chimera to the field. Pop two cards, the Selena in the back row, and that's basically the game. So there we go. So that is all the games that we had with the Chimera Runick or Runick Chimera deck. So what are your thoughts on the deck? I think for me it's kind of good, but I think it's, you know, with the current format that we have here, like the Alter guys, it's struggling a little bit. But hopefully in the near future, this deck might be really good. Anyways, that is it for today, guys. Keep safe, good luck. See you guys in the next video. Like and subscribe, and goodbye.